There was a quiet man from Kazakhstan who trained like a soldier and fought like a machine. Gennady Golovkin wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He didn't need to be, because every punch he threw spoke louder than words. Every step forward was calculated. Every drop of sweat meant something. While other fighters posted highlight reels and quotes, Golovkin was in the mountains alone, hitting the bag until the walls shook. No entourage, no excuses, no shortcuts. He trained in silence, and that silence built one of the most feared fighters of the modern era. His jab wasn't just a setup, it was a weapon. His smile wasn't charm, it was control. And behind that calm face was a man molded by Soviet discipline, American intensity, and a mindset built entirely around precision and pain. Gennady Gennadyevich Golovkin was born on April 8, 1982, in Karaganda, a harsh industrial city in Kazakhstan. His father was a Russian coal miner. His mother, of Korean descent, worked in a chemical laboratory. The neighborhood where Golovkin grew up, Maikuduk, was considered the most dangerous area in the city. It was the kind of place where you learned to fight or you learned to run. Golovkin had older brothers, Vadim and Sergei, who wouldn't let him run. When Gennady was just 8 years old, his brothers started arranging fights for him on the streets with boys much older and bigger. Every day after kindergarten, a different opponent. At age 10, Gennady walked into his first real boxing gym. His first coach was Viktor Dmitriev. Just 1 month later, the coach put him in the ring and Gennady lost his first organized fight. But the coach saw something, natural power in those young hands. By 1993, at 11 years old, Golovkin won the local Karaganda regional tournament in the cadet division. But tragedy soon struck. Both of his older brothers joined the military and never came home. Sergei died in 1994, Vadim in 1990. These losses could have destroyed him, but instead, they fueled him. Every punch he threw carried the memory of his brothers. It took 7 years before Golovkin was accepted onto the Kazakhstan national boxing team. By the time his amateur career ended in 2005, he had compiled an astonishing record, 345 wins and only 5 losses. He won gold at the 2003 World Amateur Championships in Bangkok and silver at the 2004 Athens Olympics. In 2006, at age 24, Golovkin turned professional in Germany. By the end of 2008, he was 14-0 with 11 knockouts. And by 2010, Golovkin made a decision that would change his career forever. He relocated to Big Bear, California to train with Abel Sanchez. Big Bear Training Camp. Big Bear Lake sits nearly 7,000 feet above sea level in the San Bernardino Mountains of California. It's cold, isolated, and brutally quiet. Exactly why fighters go there. It's a place built for solitude, where distractions disappear and the only noise is your own breathing. In 2010, Gennady Golovkin drove up those winding mountain roads for the first time to meet trainer Abel Sanchez at a gym called The Summit. At that time, Golovkin was relatively unknown in the West, a highly decorated amateur and WBA interim champion, but far from a star. When they met, their English was broken, and most of their communication was through nods, gestures, and punches on the pads. Sanchez later recalled, he was polite, quiet, but when he hit the mitts, you could feel the difference. The power was just natural. 2 months later, Golovkin returned, and this time he stayed. By 2013, Golovkin was living at the Summit Gym almost year-round, 10 months out of 12 separated from his wife and young son. He explained it simply, a private gym is very important to me, so I can focus 100% on boxing. No friends, no restaurants, no movie theater, just boxing. The altitude wasn't just a backdrop, it was part of the weapon. At nearly 7,000 feet, oxygen is thin, forcing the body to produce more red blood cells and strengthening endurance. But for him, it wasn't just about science, it was about silence. Big Bear offered total isolation, the kind of focus that reminded him of his Soviet-style upbringing. The daily routine was brutal. He woke up at 5 a.m., and by 6 he was already running for up to 90 minutes through the mountain trails. Then came breakfast and an hour of strength and conditioning. Afternoons were for technical work, sparring, mitts, bag drills, and ring movement. Every session had one clear purpose: build efficient, repeatable, knockout power. Abel Sanchez described his approach. We didn't train for speed or flash. We trained for destruction, controlled, precise destruction. Big Bear wasn't just where Golovkin trained, it was where he built his legend, one brutal morning run at a time. Strength and conditioning. Golovkin's conditioning routine was built on endurance, precision and total body resilience, not bulk. Every part of his program under Abel Sanchez was designed to make him efficient for 12 hard rounds, not just explosive for one. Cardio formed the foundation. Golovkin began most mornings with long hill runs around Big Bear Lake, using the altitude to build unmatched stamina and lung capacity. The steep terrain forced constant leg drive and balance under fatigue, mimicking the pressure and movement of a fight. On alternate days, he mixed in jump rope sessions, often lasting 15 to 30 minutes, to refine rhythm, coordination, and foot speed. These drills weren't just about endurance, they were about timing, precision, and keeping his body fight-ready year-round. Flexibility and functional strength came next. Stretching was a daily ritual. Dynamic warm-ups, mobility sequences, and post-workout stretches kept his movement fluid and prevented stiffness from the high-volume training. Resistance bands were a key tool, used for shadowboxing, rotational pulls, and controlled extensions. This type of variable resistance built strength through the full range of motion and mirrored the mechanics of punching, generating power while maintaining relaxation and speed. Core training was the centerpiece. Every session included hundreds of sit-ups, hanging leg raises, weighted twists, and planks. For Golovkin, a strong core wasn't just about aesthetics, it was the engine behind his balance, defense, and knockout power. Upper body endurance and control followed. Knee push-ups and long sets of light dumbbell shadowboxing developed shoulder endurance, punching rhythm, and the ability to maintain snap deep into fights. Using dumbbells between 2 to 5 pounds, Golovkin shadowboxed for extended rounds, building the kind of controlled, repeatable power that defined his style. Finally, neck training completed the circuit. Golovkin's neck work was notoriously demanding. Bridging, isometric holds, and weighted harness exercises designed to absorb impact and maintain posture under fire. It's one of the reasons he was never knocked down in his professional career. His neck and jawline were conditioned to handle force from any angle. Together, this system built a fighter who could pressure, punch, and perform at full capacity from the opening bell to the final round, a product of science, structure, and sheer discipline. The technical work. Golovkin's technical work under Abel Sanchez was built on efficiency, accuracy, and controlled pressure. Sanchez did not believe in excessive hard sparring, arguing that too much damage in the gym shortened careers. Instead, Golovkin sparred in focused, controlled phases. A typical camp included sparring only on select days, often around 3 sessions per week, with a total volume generally kept between 60 to 75 rounds, depending on the opponent and camp length. Sparring partners were chosen specifically to replicate the style, stance, and habits of the upcoming opponent, ensuring every round served a strategic purpose. On non-sparring days, Golovkin focused on bag work, mitt work, and ring drills. The heavy bag sessions emphasized precision mechanics and repetition, reinforcing the same punching form round after round. His jab became one of the most effective in modern boxing because of this attention to detail. Golovkin didn't use the jab as a rangefinder. He used it as a scoring weapon, a tool to break rhythm, and an entry point for combinations. Training footage and fight data both show that many of his knockouts were set up by the jab first. Mitt work and pad drills were at the heart of Golovkin's technical training. Each session focused on precision, rhythm, and efficiency, not flashy combinations for the camera. Abel Sanchez used the pads to refine balance, weight transfer, and punch placement, drilling Golovkin to generate power from perfect mechanics, not muscle. Every punch flowed from a stable base, with subtle shifts in foot position allowing him to fire without losing balance. The double-end bag was another staple, a tool for timing, accuracy, and reflexes. Golovkin used it to sharpen his jab and develop patience under motion, learning to strike between rebounds rather than chase them. Combined with controlled mitt rounds, it built the rhythm and control that made his offense so measured and precise. Shadowboxing tied everything together. Golovkin often shadowboxed for multiple rounds with light dumbbells or no weights at all, focusing on form, rhythm, and breathing. These sessions weren't about speed, they were about control, practicing perfect technique in silence until every motion became instinct. It was a mental and physical rehearsal, refining the balance between offense, defense, and positioning. Defensively, Golovkin relied on a high guard, compact head movement, and disciplined stance control rather than wide slips or flashy reactions. His defense wasn't built to avoid every shot. It was built to take the edge off punches and stay in position to counter immediately. Sanchez called his style systematic pressure. Golovkin didn't rush knockouts. He dismantled opponents piece by piece, disrupting rhythm with his jab, varying targets, and waiting for perfect openings. When they came, his finishing punches were clean, efficient, and final. It looked simple, but it wasn't. Consistent pressure, precise punches, no wasted movement, no panic, no hurry, just control. Recovery, diet, and mindset. Golovkin's approach to recovery and nutrition was practical and consistent. Abel Sanchez preferred that Golovkin eat the same foods he grew up eating, just in controlled portions. Because he stayed close to his fighting weight year-round, he didn't need crash dieting or dehydration cuts. His meals were fuel, not rituals. Golovkin favored simple whole food meals: steak, potatoes, rice, eggs, vegetables, and soups. He avoided soda, processed sweets, and fast food during training camp, but there was no extreme dieting philosophy. The goal was maintaining energy for 2-a-day training sessions, not carving down weight. He generally avoided supplements and processed powders. Instead, he relied on fresh juices and smoothies made from whole fruits and vegetables for natural recovery. This matched Sanchez's approach. If the work is real, keep the fuel real too. Living at altitude at the summit played a quiet but important role in recovery. The environment was controlled. Early mornings, training, meals, rest, second sessions, sleep. No nightlife, no social circles, no distractions. Even without a fight scheduled, Golovkin would often stay there to maintain form, something extremely rare among elite fighters. But the foundation of all of it was mindset. Golovkin carried the loss of his brothers privately but constantly, and it fueled his discipline. Sanchez kept a whiteboard listing history's great fighters. Muhammad Ali at number 1 and the number 2 slot left blank as motivation. Golovkin trained like someone who believed earning that spot was daily work. Inside the ring, his mental approach was defined by patience and control. Constant pressure, never emotional, and no wasted movement. Even in controversial results, like the Canelo fights, he stayed composed. For Golovkin, greatness wasn't a moment. It was a habit executed every single day. What made Gennady Golovkin's training special? It was waking up at 5 a.m. in the mountains of Big Bear and running 90 minutes through brutal terrain at 7,000 feet. It was the discipline to train even without a fight scheduled. It was the wisdom to limit sparring and preserve his body. It was the focus on effective mass, core strength, and explosive power that generated devastating mid-range knockouts. It was the recovery built into living at the summit, away from distractions. It was the mindset forged in Karaganda, strengthened by the loss of his brothers and sharpened by Abel Sanchez. Most of all, it was the belief that being a champion wasn't about moments in the ring, but about thousands of hours when nobody was watching. Golovkin's training methods weren't revolutionary. They were fundamental. But he executed those fundamentals with consistency and intensity that separated him from everyone else. He didn't look for shortcuts. He showed up every single day and did the work. And that work produced one of the greatest middleweights in boxing history. A fighter with an 88% knockout ratio, a champion with 20 consecutive title defenses, a man never knocked down in nearly 400 fights. This is how Gennady Golovkin really trained. Not with secrets or tricks, but with discipline, intelligence, and an unshakable belief that the work you put in when nobody's watching determines who you become when everyone is. Whether you're a fighter, an athlete, or just someone trying to be better, there's a lesson here. Excellence isn't an event. It's a habit. It's waking up before the sun. It's doing one more rep. It's staying in the mountains when everyone else goes home. It's being willing to sacrifice comfort for greatness. That's the real secret. And that's how legends are made.